Reddit podcasts. We know them, we love them, but why? Why do we adore these podcasts so much? Well, I hate Reddit podcasts. There, I said it. Get your pitchforks, get your torches, come after me.
Tell me why my mans want to spend all his time with my bi brother, and when he comes back, he smells like sex. My bad. Her brother's bi.
Her boyfriend bi too.
The boyfriend's a real one for keeping it in the fam.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to Try Hard Terry. It's me, Terry. Thanks for checking in. Thanks for stopping by. Be sure to unsubscribe that subscribe button. Just smash it. Just hit it. Subscribe. How some people feel about YouTubers or live streamers reacting to compilation videos for content, I hate the Reddit podcast. I affectionately call these Redditcasters. Don't get me wrong. I understand. You need a little downtime. You need a little R&R. Draw yourself a nice bubble bath with some red wine and your favorite AITA podcast. Everyone has their thing. It may sound like I'm being condescending, and that's because I am. But also, I'm not here to crap on the listeners and the enjoyers of these podcasts. You're entirely valid in what you want to watch when you're unwinding. I watch metal restoration videos. It's awful content, but it puts me at ease. So I reiterate, my beef is not with you, the listener or watcher. It is with the podcasters themselves.
My husband hates them for putting this pressure on us. AITA?
I think you gotta name that kid Philip.
I do too.
I don't think you have any way around it.
The creators of these podcasts are who I have on my radar. But Terry, I hear you asking, these podcasters aren't hurting anybody. Why are you hating on them so much if they're making harmless content? You're right. You're absolutely right. But let me just complain about something. Just one. Here's the deal. Reddit is a magical place where people can divulge their deep secrets or to explore their darkest fantasies or engage in their most erotic furry fantasies. Hey, it's the front page of the internet. Back when I was a young boy and I was on my family's home computer and I was perusing the internet. And when I wasn't on r/femboys, I was going to the top of all the news subreddits and r/videos and r/all subreddits to see what's popping. Now, if I was really in the mood for a good story, you know I was popping over to AITA or Truth Off My Chest. Those Reddits have the best juice, like the juiciest, treasuriest booty of stories they got. Besides r/booty, you know what I'm talking about. Like, some of these stories are so good and so convenient that I think they might be made up.
My whole marriage is built on lies.
Uh-oh.
I don't know who to trust.
Hey, maybe some of the stories are based on true events, but the outcomes are a bit less climactic or dramatic. That's my personal opinion. Like when someone roasts you and you can't think of a good comeback, and then you're like thinking about the conversation 2 hours later and you're like, that, but writing a story about that, but including the comeback in that story. Anyways, podcasts are great. Who doesn't love a good podcast with their favorite creators, influencers, celebrities? They're more content for us to consume. You know, have an actual conversation than the nice polished persona that they give us in their YouTube videos. Most of the time, a podcast is a dialogue between two or more people discussing, you know, what's on the top of their minds at that point. It could be about something thought-provoking. It could be something political. It could be something up-to-date. It could be something historical. It could be true crime. It could be just bedtime stories. Sometimes podcasts have special guests on them to interview. And so the host makes sure to, you know, have talking points to hit so they can keep the conversation moving along. That's the skeleton breakdown of a typical podcast, I'd say. Then we have Reddit podcasts.
This is my 4-year-old's first year of school and he's in pre-K. He hates school so far and says it's boring. So I tell him that if he wakes up and goes to school without fighting me, he can stay at home 2 days out of the week. During the week, I remind him about our deal when he's misbehaving. So he thinks I let him skip school on Saturdays and Sundays because he's well behaved.
These podcasts are popping up all over the place. I first found them scrolling through TikTok on my TikTok feed. Now they're popping up all over my shorts feed on YouTube. With these Reddit podcasts, these podcasts are the same setup typically as a normal podcasts. One person in dialogue with another, but there's not really a conversation going on. Sure, there's some banter back and forth to get a good setup and get, you know, a good idea of the personalities going into this, but besides that, not much going on. There are no talking points, there's no thought-provoking topics, there's no conversation. These podcasts are designed, however, for typically one person, typically the host, to find the latest top trending r/AITA or r/TIFU, or just best of Reddit, you know, and read aloud the very real story, with the other guest or host, you know, chiming in with their occasional, no way, wow, or that's crazy. That's crazy.
My wife has breast cancer, and I want a divorce, but I'm afraid to tell her.
What? What the fuck? Ugh, the way she writes this sounds very lack of accountability.
And then they quickly discuss what happened, how they would have reacted in that situation, and then promptly move on to the next story. Typically, they take the most obvious route, the morally good but ethically questionable route, just to keep you on your toes and be a little edgy. Something like, I would have absolutely filed for a divorce, but then I would have moved in with my best friend, who he cheated on me with, not the asshole. What about this irks me? Is it reading the Reddit stories? Is it about the room temperature takes? Is it about them never saying the word asshole? No. It's that some of these podcasts have developed such a following, not for their personalities, not for their thought-provoking ideas, but for their bedtime story capabilities. These podcasts exist to essentially validate the feelings of the listeners. That's the whole point. The average listener's not tuning in for their unique personalities that they're on display for. They're listening to bedtime stories, let's be honest. Compiled and packaged nicely so they can listen instead of having to fidget with their phone every time the TikTok AI finishes reading part 1 and you have to scour for the next 30 seconds on that person's page to find the part 2 of the story, only to come across halfway into part 3, leading into part 4, then scrolling back to part 1 to find part 2, but then already knowing the outcome, so you're just listening because your brain needs the dopamine to satisfy hearing the play out of the story that has already built up. And at that point, it doesn't even pay off in the way you think it was going to be because that pause gave you enough time to imagine an even better version of this fake story because the original one had to be grounded in realism. Smosh is my biggest disappointment. How could such a great mogul media company that was the height of creativity on YouTube devolve into one of their channels being dedicated to reading bedtime stories to their audience, acting like it's cool and innovative content?
My fiance, a 25-year-old man, wants his father to check my hymen tomorrow night before I get married.
Oh my God. Oh, I've heard legends of this story.
What the flick flag?
What the flick flag? You don't freaking flack and open your legs.
After writing one of the most horrific Reddit posts I've ever read, you go to, what the frick frack do I do?
It's the equivalent of making a React channel, but instead of reacting to, funny compilations, you're reacting to the lo-fi hip-hop girl for an hour and a half every week, and you're saying, oh, she flipped her hair there. You see that page turn? I don't think the page actually turned. I'm just disappointed with how far they've come and all the creative personalities and all the creative people that they have on their team. And the best they can come up with is reading bedtime stories. You have so many people on your team. How can you just be like, let's read Reddit stories? Now, these channels are nothing to look down on. They're getting great views. Smosh, continually hitting well over 1 million views per upload. 2 Hot Takes, she has just as many views as she has subscribers. She's killing it.
Great success.
I understand the appeal, not only to the viewers, but to the podcasters themselves. I mean, think about it. There's a need in the market that they see needs to be filled, and they're filling it. You get viewerships, which brings in ad revenue, which brings in sponsorships that come with the viewers, which brings in more money. Not only that, but each episode is well over an hour long, so you're getting that long runtime. Whether people are falling asleep to it, whether people are just busy working or working out even, and they need something to focus on or take their mind off of, so they slap on nearest hour and a half long podcast so they can turn the brain off. That's great. You cracked the system, you cracked the code. Instant cash cow. They're easy to make. You don't need any engaging graphics. You just need maybe 2 or 3 cam setups so you can cut to shot 1, shot 2, shot 3. Besides that, not much work going into it. Do not get me wrong. It's a compilation of juicy stories. Sprinkled in are a person's opinions that might validate your feelings to the story, so then you get that dopamine hit. These aren't new or interesting perspectives. Now, there are some times when people will try to play devil's advocate for these stories, but the listeners don't want that.
Just respond with,
I don't know why I expected this. I expected this to be a woman.
They want the validation. They want their opinions to be the right ones that they cultivated in their minds. Unless they're masochists, then you're doing a great job being devil's advocate by putting them in their place. You know what I'm saying? We love gossip as a society. I mean, we live for gossip. We can see that in popular shows. I mean, look at Gossip Girl, look at Bridgerton. Those are literally about spreading news around the town about other people's shit. I think that's why we're so drawn to Reddit stories. They're peeks into people's personal, secretive, and dark corners of their lives. We eat that shit up. Nom, 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 nom. Why did these videos start exploding in the first place? I don't know about you, but like a lot of people who are chronically online, I would listen to the text-to-speech recycled Reddit stories that were on YouTube long before TikTok or Musical.ly was ever a thing. I would lay in my childhood bed and I would listen to the compilations of the Ask Me Anything or the dark web stories or the 4chan stories, all across the spectrum. Now TikTok comes along and is the greatest opportunity for the most irrelevant people to some of the biggest impacts for our attention. Myself included. And through this nothingness, this creates a niche in the entertainment industry. Creators are fighting to fill with their ideas, their creative resolve. Reddit stories pop up on the platform alongside Temple Run or Minecraft speedrunners to boost engagement, and seeing after that gets plenty of engagement. The next natural progression is, hey, maybe someone will listen to me tell stories on a podcast. That idea helps, but what really boosted the engagement and need for long-form viewership is the pandemic. I mean, the pandemic caused a boom in content creators, as well as a need for content to be created so people can have something to turn their attention to instead of focusing on the worries of, is my family going to die tomorrow? Am I going to die tomorrow? Who knows? We were begging for any outlets available through baking, gaming, binging, anything to take our mind off the present stress. Let's just watch some Reddit stories. Maybe it'll go away. Why not try out listening to podcasts?
I'm pro-life,
Love that for you.
but feel like my life has gone downhill ever since Roe overturned.
To boil it all down, you want to say I'm jealous? Sure. You want to say I'm cranky and you should have no reason to be complaining about something that isn't hurting anyone? You're absolutely right. But I'll be damned if I don't say that this is low-hanging fruit content. These other reactionary streamers and channels that add not even their 2 cents, their 1 cent to videos. I may be talking in circles at this point. If I am, sorry about that. I just, I'm getting a little heated. It doesn't seem like original content to me. That's what bugs me. I'm trying to make original content here. Look at all these videos I posted. They might not be any good, but why don't you check them out? No, but seriously, we're all just having fun. We're all just trying to create content. I thought this was a funny topic to complain about. I just see people, talking about YouTubers reacting to reaction content to compilation videos and making their own react channels, and people were giving them a lot of shit. So I was like, hey, what's kind of like the podcast equivalent of that? Redditcasters. See, back in the circle. No. But genuinely, no hate to any creators that I might have featured or mentioned. Everybody's doing a great job. I appreciate the hustle. I can respect that. I'm sorry if this came off as a mean one or a rude one. That was intentional. Genuinely, if you stuck around for this long, I appreciate it. Appreciate you sticking with me here. If you liked what you saw here, give me a like, give me a thumbs up. Really appreciate it. And check out any of my other videos and be on the lookout for anything else coming up soon. All right. Y'all have a good night. See ya.